Hello, folks. It's Chris KY4CKP with Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. Well, it's fairly cold here in central Kentucky right now, but more work needs to be done on the towers. Some antenna needs to come down, some needs to go up. So that's what's coming up next on LCARA Ham Radio. All right, folks. Well, as you can see, we are back out at our second repeater site and doing some more work on the tower, on what's on the tower, having a little pre-work meeting here to nail down some details. We're about to put up some new cabling and take some existing antennas down that either need to just be replaced or potentially refurbished after being up there for as much as 20 or more years. So this tower is 140 feet, I believe it is, something in that range. You can see the commercial tower behind it's quite a bit taller. But this one's up on a pretty good sized little mountain, and again, it's a 140-foot tower or so. We've got, of course, our new building. We've documented this is what used to be known as the abandoned repeater site. And now some of us sort of jokingly refer to it as the occupied repeater site. So we've got one of our members, Ken, who's a professional tower climber, and he's got the truck and the equipment, really nice climbing harness and everything. So he was layered up and getting ready, and he was going to get up on the tower. And he was up on the tower for a pretty good while this day. He did get down once for a little while to warm up in the shack there. We've got AC and heat in the shack to help moderate temperatures throughout the year. But yeah, Ken was up there for quite a while. He's used to it. He does this kind of work professionally all the time, and even helps out a lot of our members when they're putting up towers and things on their own properties. So it's great to have talent like that in your club. Not everybody's going to have somebody like that, most likely, and you may just have to hire out. There are people that you can usually find and get some help from. Maybe even the local fire department with their ladder truck or something like that. Or telco workers or something. Here you can see in the background the old shack. That was an old Vietnam era communication shack that we finally moved out of. And we're going to be taking down some older equipment, some older cabling, and putting up a couple of newer antennas and newer cables. Part of what we're working on, we want to put a couple of additional repeaters here, some additional frequencies. We want to get 6 meters and maybe 10 meters, but I think we've got really everything we need to do 6 meters once we get it in there. We've already got GMRS and 2 meters and 70 centimeters, and we may be putting in a new digital repeater. We've got digital repeaters at the primary site for the club, so we may be acquiring one of those and putting it in there. We've got a nice, decent bridge comm in there now. But it's always good to have a spare repeater if you can in your club inventory, if we're trying to help provide services and provide as good of uptime as we can, even though a lot of this, of course, is voluntary work and different things. So here you can see we're sending up a newer antenna there. Now, one of the things that our club does, and I'm sure other clubs around the country or the world do, is we have a number of remote repeater sites, receive sites, to help expand coverage around our county and neighboring areas. And many of those are located at hospitals and places like that, and were originally and specifically put in for emergency communications. And so we have been changing equipment up for the last 2 or 3 years. And part of what we want to do is get those remote sites active and functioning again, make sure that there are people at those locations that are still properly trained, remember or know how to use the equipment, those kinds of things. Again, that's a big part of what amateur radio can do, is help provide emergency communications. We've got the series, and you see our emergency communications trailer. We take it out for a number of events throughout the year, and worked and continue to work on that to give us a mobile location, again with air conditioning and or heat, so that we can work locations, and especially if we had an emergency we needed to be out, because emergencies tend to happen in foul weather. And so field days and things like that are kind of there to help us practice and make sure our equipment functions and, get some sort of using it out in the field. That's one of the things I like about POTA, Parks on the Air, or similar related activities like SOTA, Summits on the Air, going up on a mountain. Because you get out, and of course, it's always nice to get out in nature, but you're getting your equipment out as well. And again, practicing with it, making sure it works. Now here we can see a couple of little short temporary antennas we had put up to just test a couple of things. And they've been up for a few weeks, but they were just put up there temporarily. And so now that we're getting some of the permanent antennas installed at much higher elevations on the tower, these two little tower segment and a little mast there, we were bringing these down because, again, they were just put up for some testing, but it showed that the equipment worked, was programmed correctly, those kinds of things. So you see our club president Don and Brian taking those components down. Of course, on this day, as is true a fair amount of the time, I was slinging the camera around. Brian runs the camera quite a bit as well, and occasionally one of our other members. But sometimes that's why you don't see me in front of the camera quite as much. Although he did take some footage this day and captured me actually doing just a little bit of work. I usually do at least a little bit. And then, of course, we both work on the videos for the channel. So again, we're taking down these little temporary, and it's kind of funny because this little tower segment you see there that they're taking down, it was left over, and there used to be several segments. And I think 2 or 3 of them have wandered off. This isn't a completely secure location. It's not well known necessarily, but I think there were 2 or 3 other segments once upon a time. And I think we're down to just this one, but we found a temporary use for it anyway. So yeah, here we are. We're just gonna remove the little mast segment there and those antennas, and they'll get reused. In fact, I think 1 or 2 of them got reused that day. We just put them up higher on the tower so that they would have a much better reach in the local community. This is on sort of the southern part of the lake area, and then our main site is on the northern part of the lake area. So we have pretty good reach around this county. And this is also, it's a pretty large county and quite rural, but there's lots of vacationers that come here, again, because of the lake, and hiking and fishing and hunting and all kinds of things. So we have lots of tourism throughout the year, which is one of the reasons our club decided to put up GMRS repeaters, because a lot of those folks, they're not always hams. They don't always have their ham license, but of course there's GMRS that you can get and use. Get your family license and use it, whether you're out on four-wheelers, ATVs, side-by-sides, on your boat. Again, hunting, fishing, hiking, all these activities take place out here. So we use that and have had good response and good utilization even so far with that. And we suspected we would, again, because of all the tourism and everything. So as we've said many times, volunteer your time with your club. You may not be aware of what's happening. Ask, hey, is anything happening? Is any work going on? Can I learn some of the maintenance and functionality of what the club has, what it does? Usually folks are more than willing to accept some help, some extra hands whenever it comes to doing work, and to just pass on the knowledge. We want to make sure that any club can survive members coming and going. People may move and other things. We want to make sure that that knowledge, gets shared and people get that and get the experience. We're usually more than willing to help train and teach other people. We all got trained and taught by somebody else at some point. And I know a lot of us are more than willing to pass that along, to other folks as well. And it may be simple things, but, if you don't have a lot of experience with tools, a lot of times it's not anything that you have to get a doctorate to learn how to use a few simple hand tools. The cure for a lack of experience is to get some experience. Even on some simple projects like you see us doing, Brian and I and many of our other club members, in simply helping out with various projects, whether it's working on the MCOM trailer or INCOM Junior, or these repeater sites and things, not only are we learning amateur radio activities, which is good, and repeaters and how they work and how to set some things up, but kind of simple things, how to use various tools that maybe you've never used before, and some of the reasons why maybe we would set something up one way versus another. And it's just kind of nice to give back to your club that helps provide resources in the in the local community that are free for folks to use. All this is donated time and effort, as you see here. So we can still see the solar panel has survived so far and helps provide ongoing power to battery banks in the repeater shack there, and looking to also put in some solar at our primary site. We cleared some trees out of the way to help make way for that, and then weather caught up with us a little bit this year, but probably in the spring, early summer next year, hopefully we'll get some solar going up there on that. With that, there is a battery bank up there, but it of course can only last so long if we do lose power. So, there's always plenty of projects to do, and every so often, once or twice a year, we'll have a hands-on session meeting, and we'll simply just have a session where we talk about what are the projects that we want to make sure are active on our list right now. And it's usually not hard to get 10 or 15 projects on there. So that's going to wrap this one up, folks. Just some more prep work and getting some things in shape for more services at this location. This is Chris, KY4CKP for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. We will see you folks in the next video, 73.